So we managed to narrowly avoid getting caught and killed by the deadly Scissor Man, though the same can't be said of our fellow orphan Laura, who, well, my morbid curiosity has gotten the better of me, and I think that we should probably investigate her body, because there might just be a clue on it. But mysteriously, her body has up and vanished. It could very well be that once the Scissor Man lost our trail, he decided to clean up after himself. Though, in the end, Jennifer seems pretty nonplussed about the entire disappearance. Instead, she remarks that the shower can be used, which I think is supposed to allude to the fact that you can use the shower as a hiding spot in the future, and that will be pretty necessary to remember, as I don't think we'll be able to hide under that bed again, and we will be definitely seeing the Scissor Man again. For now, though, I think we should continue exploring. There's still Anne and Lot out there to find, and more importantly, we are going to need to find some way out of this mansion. And a ringing phone definitely means that there has to be some outside connection that we can use to possibly phone for help. The question is, well, I hear the ringing, but where is it coming from? We have quite a few doors to investigate in this second foyer. And, well, we might as well start with a process of elimination, I suppose. Then we get our first locked door. Now, as that is not blocked or referred to in some other manner, that means that there will be a key for that door, but, well, we just have to keep on trucking until we find that key. Now, as we enter this hallway, the ringing does stop, which I guess means the phone is not going to be nearby, but, well, while we're here, we might as well just, explore. Now, as this is pretty much a properly laid out house, we'll have pretty much every room you could think of that would normally be in a house, such as a fully equipped and pretty modern looking kitchen. Now, you do want to make sure and explore pretty much every point of interest, because you never know when something of usefulness might show up. And that big freezer there might certainly hold something of use. And wouldn't you know it, there is something in here. But that item comes with its own swarm of deadly, I guess, flesh-eating vermin. Now, the good news is they won't follow you out of the room, and as far as I know, they can't kill you. But yeah, if you are in need of that stamina, you do want to be careful, especially if you're getting chased, because they will drain you all the way to the bare minimum. Yeah, you do want to be pretty careful, though, that you make sure and have a way out whenever you are, exploring new territory. Because this game definitely has a very high trial and error factor, because, well, like you saw, there was definitely something in there, but Well, I guess we're going to have to figure out how to get to that later. Now, next to the freezer, we find a somewhat innocuous calendar, but, well, I guess the Burrows were definitely expecting us today, as they specially marked it off. Next to the calendar, we find a cabinet full of drinks. Now, personally, after all this running around, I would be pretty parched. So I can only assume that Jennifer herself would also want to partake in one of these mysterious drinks. The thing is, though, that they carry a little bit of a danger. We find ourselves in a mysterious new location with a pretty disheveled-looking friend. Seems he is expecting some type of a food or a dinner meal, but well, as of right now, all we have is perfume and a rock, and I doubt either one of those are very nutritious, and it seems we are trapped in here with him. We aren't trapped in there for long before he decides that we are the meal of the evening. So, at this point, let's kind of consider the kitchen to be done with. We managed to get attacked by some horrible bugs and eaten alive, so let's see what else the first floor has to offer. There we go. This looks like it might be a bit more fruitful. We have an upper haystack, but even more importantly, we have a possible means of escape. And we can even get inside the driver's seat. And who knows, maybe this thing is fully gassed up and ready to go, and... oh. Alright, well, we definitely need a key. I don't think Jennifer is going to be able to hotwire it, but... well, normally, I think some people might hide their keys in their car, but the Burrows family seems to take a different approach to their automobile security and instead store their keys in a nearby crate. So that at least means that we can possibly use the car as an escape vehicle once we find our friends, but well, you know, if you were curious, you could still use the key immediately. Though Jennifer is a pretty conscientious person, and she isn't going to just abandon her friends. But it's still good to keep this in the back of our minds. Especially considering that that upper haystack looks like it might be another prime place that we can hide in case we get chased again. But I think that pretty much covers this area of the first floor. And there is still that telephone ringing in the foyer there. So, I don't know, maybe we could head up to the second floor and see if we can't locate that phone. Now, I will say for the most part, Jennifer moves at a pretty glacial pace. And even running, you know, there's still that limitation, but I would still say the greatest limitation to the movement of the game is just how incredibly slowly she moves upstairs. Even when she is in panic mode and being chased by the Scissor Man, For some reason or another, she will never break this speed when going up and down stairs. So, in the future, I will try to keep it at a minimum whenever I head to the first and second floor. But we've successfully made our trek up here, so, well, before we try this door, I think I will explore the doors at the far end here. And first we find another locked door. Hopefully we will start to find keys for some of these doors. But we are given another pretty dilapidated looking hallway, so let's just continue our series of progressions through these rooms. Hopefully this one pays off a little bit more than the first floor kitchen. And it definitely looks like it's full of bric-a-brac and junk, though it's a little bit hard to see. And sadly, it's going to remain hard to see as the lights don't work, but thankfully I do know where things are in here, such as this mysterious canister here. And would you know it, it's a handy-dandy canister of insecticide. Yeah, that's got to be pretty useful for taking care of those bugs down in the fridge. In addition to that, we also find a nice length of rope here. There are also some just pieces of flavor text in the background, such as a cabinet full of broken tableware. Seems that maybe the Burroughs family isn't big on using the tableware they have. And while it seems like we might be running out of things to pick up in here, there is this one final thing. But yeah, it appears that Jennifer does not have the mad ups or upper body strength that we would assume. And we're going to have to do a little bit of lateral thinking to get over there. Good news is there is this handy crate that we can push over and use as a little makeshift step. And what do we find in the crate? But some particularly odd clothing. Yeah. I'm not sure what usage we're going to get out of a black robe, but well, I'm sure it has to have some use, otherwise the game wouldn't give it to us, right? But I think we should store up a little bit of stamina before we head out. The game can be a little bit fickle when it comes to places where it will allow you to relax. But I guess I'll find another place. Don't get a feeling like we're going to get caught, because the end of this hallway comes pretty quickly, though. Yeah, there is one other thing of interest up here in the window. It's a little bird's nest. You can already tell there's something in here. It looks like eggs, but we don't want to be rude and knock them down with a stick. Instead, we're going to use the same thing we did in the previous room. Make ourselves a little box step. And what do we find in the nest? Well, obviously we already see the eggs, But along with the eggs, there's also a lot of rubbish, but amongst the rubbish, we also find a key. Yeah, this West Wing key is one of the instances of the game varying things up a little bit because, well, if you don't manage to find this key in that box in the room with the TV, this will be the other location it will show up in. Now, there will be a few other instances of the game varying itself up, and I'll make sure to point those out whenever we run across those, but, well, we do have a brand new key, but, well, I don't really want to deal with those stairs just yet. I mean, we could go use the insecticide, but, well, I feel like we're honestly having pretty good luck so far with the second floor. Well, we were having luck. But if we look outside the window here, yeah, we see Anne fall to a pretty grisly and bloody demise from the second floor. And, well, that leaves us with only a lot left alive, but, well, there is a way to save Anne. And, well, it probably won't make an immediate amount of sense, but the best way to save Anne here is, well, just don't look. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because that scream is clearly to indicate that Anne is in danger, but yeah, the only way to make sure she is going to survive is just, well, if, we don't hear, or if we don't see that tree fall in the forest, it probably doesn't fall. But this lovely decor upgrade on the second floor here is a nice change of pace after all the dilapidated sections we've been going through. And we have quite a few new rooms to explore here. First being this incredibly grisly trophy room. Even seems like some of these exhibits are still moving. Well, I'm sure Mr. Burroughs won't mind. We made a little accent there, but yeah, amongst all these trophies, there's not too much more to investigate. We got a large cabinet and a smaller crate. And this room in particular is kind of different compared to the SNES version. Namely, it has a puzzle that was originally cut from the game but was later put back in for the PS1 version. Now, you may have noticed that, unlike most rooms so far, the trophy room here started out lit. And if we turn off the lights and head back over to that crate that seemingly had nothing in it, we now see that there is something glimmering in it. That's right, it's a bronze dagger. Now, as to why this dagger didn't shimmer in the light, it's really up to you, but, well, with that in hand, let's check out this other cupboard back here. get our first really time-sensitive puzzle of the game. Hopefully you did manage to find that dagger, because that's the only means to take down this funky mummy. And by taking out that moving cadaver, we do get a birdcage key. But yeah, in the original SNES game, you could still find that corpse there in the cupboard, but yeah, it wasn't until the PS1 version that it managed to come alive and allow Jennifer one shining moment of combat. Yeah, still feeling pretty good about this second floor. We've managed to accrue quite a few items, and I mean, hell, we even managed to take down the living dead. I think that's a pretty great success all around, I'd say. It's still kind of odd, though, that even with all the dangers we've been experiencing, it's kind of weird that we haven't run into the Scissor Man since the first floor. But hopefully you music lovers out there might enjoy a nice tune, though it's definitely not going to be off the record player, as not only is it not plugged in, but just the overall power to the room seems to be completely busted. Still, Jennifer could probably play us a tune on the piano. Maybe a lovely Moonlight Sonata. Close enough. But yeah, the music room holds a different type of danger. It seems that the Scissor Man finally wants to cut in into our music time. And I do apologize for the slight audio distortion here. Stop in just a second, but well, this is definitely not the kind of place you want to run into the Scissor Man, because even though we have been exploring pretty thoroughly, I think all the hiding places we know of so far are back on the first floor, and I don't really feel safe running all the way back there, so we can only hope that in our stumbling about here in all these rooms that maybe we can manage to find some other new place to hide, though the study is way too open. Scissor Man is still close behind us. We just need to hope that in our blind running forward that maybe we can find some safe spot. And yeah, Lady Luck manages to smile on us due to the poor upkeep of the mansion. But I think with that, we narrowly avoided another death. I think Jennifer should probably relax a little bit, but you know, before we call it a video, I think with all this danger here, I kind of wonder what would happen if maybe we decided not to have a conscience and just, I don't know, maybe decided to leave the mansion without our two friends. Now, initially, you know, Jennifer still has that, you know, conscience, that little angel on her shoulder telling her, we should probably stay and find everybody, but, well, it just takes a little bit of extra cajoling on our part to make her see the light of day and to realize Well, she maybe doesn't want to get impaled by a scissor man, or eaten alive, or attacked by mummies, or eaten alive by deadly bugs. And believe it or not, that is a legitimate means of ending the game. Now, I don't think I've mentioned it directly before, but there are, I think, 7 or 8 possible endings to the game, though I think a couple of them are pretty similar. This is probably the quickest ending you can get in the game. You can pretty much evade Scissor Man the first time and reach this car and get the keys probably within 5 minutes of playing. Though in the end, you don't really solve any of the mysteries, and, well, yeah, you kind of leave people to get horribly murdered. So probably not the most fulfilling ending in the world, but, well, it does kind of fit into the whole, I guess, horror, inspiration that this game is going for. Still, though, probably seen enough horror movies to know that getting away in a car is not always the safest way to escape a situation. And we'll learn pretty quickly just why this isn't really what I would call a good ending.